Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. This evening we are studying the Haftarah, the prophetic reading connected to the section of the Torah of Va'etchanan. Now this Haftarah begins a series of 7 consecutive weeks where all of the prophetic readings are taken from the book of Isaiah. They're all the readings from Yeshayahu. It begins on the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av, and they all deal with the theme of the consolation of Jerusalem, of the rebuilding of Eretz Yisrael, of the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, of the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. 7 consecutive weeks from after Tisha B'Av until Rosh Hashanah. This particular reading of the Haftarah of Parashat Va'etchanan is taken from chapter 40 of the book of Isaiah, Perek Mem of Yeshayahu. This is such a basic reading in the Jewish community that in many, many places this Shabbat is referred to as the Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of consolation, but not Shabbat Nechama. That's the way we would say consolation, Nechama. But Shabbat Nachamu, because that is the first word, those are the first words of the Haftarah reading of this particular Shabbat. Those people wanting to follow, I'm reading Perek Mem, chapter 40 of Isaiah. What's not clear in the opening section of the Haftarah, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar Elokechem. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful teaching, to comfort the people. The only point which seems to be somewhat vague in the text is who is being addressed. Comfort my people. Who shall comfort my people? Is this a statement of God to Isaiah? Go comfort my people? And indeed, Yeshayahu is filled, replete, with references of rebuilding, references of consolation, references of the joy of the celebration of the building of Eretz Yisrael and the building of Yerushalayim. So what does it mean, Nachamu? Nachamu is a plural form. Why doesn't it say Nahem, which would be the singular form of the command? And in the commentaries, I mean, I have a list here of several of the commentaries. Each one tries to find a different explanation. Are we talking maybe to the group of prophets? Maybe that's the function of the prophets of Israel. As you know, in so many of the prophetic writings, in so many of the prophetic teachings, there are teachings about the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. It's a common theme, a repetitive theme, a recurring theme throughout the prophets. And it could be Nachamu is being addressed, and that's what we find in the earliest of commentaries, that maybe the word Nachamu here is referring to the command of God to the prophets of Israel. Make sure to comfort my people. Don't leave them only with prophecies of doom and destruction, but tell them that there's always this avenue of hope, this ray of light that's going to shine. Or perhaps, according to some, and several of the commentaries, the Ibn Ezra, for instance, quotes this in his commentary. He says that maybe the prophecy is L'Gdolei Ha'am, maybe the leaders of the people. The leaders of the people are instructed to comfort, to console the nation. Our nation went through many, many great tragedies. Our nation went through many, many forms of difficulty. And therefore, comfort them. Comfort my people. Comfort my people. Nachamu. Nachamu. There's a discussion about why the word is repeated twice. Why doesn't it just say Nachamu? Is the repetition mean do it immediately, do it repeatedly? Does it mean console them on a physical level, console them on a spiritual level? Does it mean console different parts of the people? But I want to focus on one commentary that I studied where they discuss this notion of Nachamu, Nachamu. Now, you could say that the double expression Nachamu means it's not going to be enough just to console once. It's not as if you get up one time and you say, okay, everything will be fine. Eretz Yisrael will be rebuilt. The people of Israel will be gathered from all over the world. Maybe shetzrichim, in the language, one of the commentaries, shetzrichim nichumim harbei. They need many forms of consolation. But the fact that there's no one person or one group of people being identified to comfort my people, I would like to suggest, and I did find it at least in one of the sources, in the Yalkut Me'am Lo'ez, he quotes an interpretation that maybe each of us is the one that God is addressing to comfort my people. Kishem sha'ani menachem etchem, kain tenachamu ish l're'ehu. The same way I comfort you, says God to the Jewish people, why don't you comfort each other? Why don't you console each other? Why don't you help each other out of despair? Which would mean, and this is a relatively new concept to some people, that it's not only the prophets of Israel who have to give these words of encouragement. It's not only the Nevi'im. It's not only the Gedolim. It's not only the Gedolei Ha'am. Each of us has to comfort everyone else that we know. And if you see someone who, God forbid, is unfortunately losing it a little bit spiritually, maybe, God forbid, involved in despair, may it never happen to anyone. Maybe they don't see the divine plan. Maybe they don't see the divine future. Maybe these are the words that are supposed to direct us in life. Comfort my people. Comfort my people. Say something comforting. Go over and comfort them. Console them. One of the questions that's asked on Judgment Day, according to our tradition, when after a person leaves this world, may it never be before at least 120 years of beautiful, happy and healthy and successful, productive life. But when we face Judgment Day, so the rabbis say that one of the questions that we're asked is, Sipita lishua? Did you actively await redemption? Did you actively await redemption? It means, did you know there's going to be redemption? Did you know that this period of diaspora? Did you know that this period of exile? Did you know that this period of suffering is only temporary? Sipita ligula, sipita lishua. And maybe it's not only on a national level, on a personal level. Did you know you're going to get out of this problem? Did you know that God will help you? And sometimes it's very difficult for the person who is going through the difficulty to be consoled by themselves. Sometimes they need someone outside. The rabbis teach that ein havush matir atzmo mi beita asurim. To get someone out of jail, to get someone out of imprisonment, you need someone outside, maybe to help them open the door a little bit, or to open doorways of opportunity for them. Sometimes they cannot accomplish it all by themselves. So I would like to suggest that one reading of our Haftarah is just any time you see anybody, you see the people of God who are suffering. You see the people of God who are sad. Nachamu, Nachamu. Go over and say something uplifting. Go over and say something which will help them through their pain. Do you remember our great teacher, Yosef? And I was thinking about Yosef as I was studying the Haftarah today, because there's a word that's used in Yosef's teaching, which almost is a parallel to the Haftarah. Everyone remembers at the very end of the book of Genesis, the very end of the story of Joseph and his brothers, after Jacob leaves this world, they saw the brothers realize and they recognized that their father was no longer there. And they were afraid because, any student of Bereshit knows exactly what they did, how they treated their brother. They maltreated their brother. They almost killed him. They sold him as a slave. They treated him. Who knows what Joseph will do now? And they were so worried. They were so troubled. And then there's a beautiful, beautiful discussion between Joseph and his brothers. The very last chapter of Genesis. I'm reading from chapter 50, starting from verses 19 through verse 21. 19 to 21. And it says that Joseph told his brothers, don't worry. Don't worry about what you did. Vayomer Yosef Alehem. Vayomer Alehem Yosef. I don't like to quote it accurately. Vayomer Alehem Yosef. Yosef said to them, Al Tiro. Al Tiro. Don't worry. Have no fear. Yes, it's true. You intended the opposite of good. But God had God's plan involved here. And it was a way of keeping everybody alive. And I won't take this against you. I will support you. I'll provide you with sustenance. I'll provide your children with sustenance. V'ata al tiro. Anochi achalkel etchem et tachbechem. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of your families. And the next words, the next phrase, I just hear this phrase and I see Isaiah 40. You know what it says? Quote, Vayinachem otam. The same word, nachem. Vayinachem otam. He consoled them. He calmed them. He comforted them. And just as a possibility of showing that perhaps what I'm saying is correct, the very next phrase is identical with the next phrase in Isaiah 40. It says, Vayidaber al liba. And he spoke to their heart. He calmed their heart. And you know what it says in chapter 40, verse 2? The second sentence of our Haftarah? Speak to the heart of Jerusalem. The same words. Daberu alev Yerushalayim. Vayidaber al libam. Do you see it? Vayidaber al libam. And here it says, Daberu alev. So I think it's more than just conjecture. Maybe there's validity to what I'm saying. Maybe if somebody comes to you and they're brokenhearted, someone comes to you and they're scared, as were the brothers of Joseph. And I'm not going to judge now, but we all know the problematic aspects of their behavior. You're now in a position where you could take one of several possibilities. Maybe each of us is supposed to do Nachamu, Ami, Vayinachem otam. And maybe whenever you see anyone who's going through difficulty, there's a story in the Talmud which I'd like to share. If you're interested, those people following, I know there are some people who actually follow the actual text. That's good. I mean, it's important. I'm reading from Tractate Ta'anit. I'm reading from Tractate Ta'anit, page 22a. Masechet Ta'anit, Daf Kafbet Amud Aleph. In which there's a description there. There's a description there of some kind of encounter between one great rabbi and Elijah the prophet. His name is Rav Baroka. And it seems that Rav Baroka Choza'ah encountered Elijah the prophet. And he asks him, could you please identify in this marketplace? Could you please show me who in this street here, who is a full-fledged member of the world to come? I don't want to tell you his answer, but it wasn't very encouraging. I hope it means, yeah, they're all going to the world to come, I hope. But I hope it means there's a difference between having a section in the world to come and really being like, a prominent member. And then, if you read the story, he points to these two people. Elijah. Now, what does it mean to encounter Eliyahu Hanavi? Does it mean this literal text? Is this a conceptual idea? Is this a prophetic vision? There are many ways of reading this. I'm not going to go into a study of Ta'anit 22, but you should study it. And then Eliyahu says, these two men, they are members. They are B'nai, the language that he uses here, B'nai Alma Da'atei Ninu. These are members, prominent members of the world beyond, the world of the world to come. Now, it doesn't say this in the text, but it could be that Rav broke out thought. Who knows, like, who are these people? They're such outstanding members. And he goes over to them, and he asks them, could you please tell me, what is your claim to fame? Amar Lahu, my uvdaichu, what is it that you're involved in? And they tell him that they're comedians, they're jesters, they're clowns. These are the people that what does that mean? And they said, whenever we see someone who's sad, we go over and we cheer them up. We go over, we cheer them up. These are the people going to the world to come. You know why? Because these are the people who are comforting my people. Nachamu! Nachamu Ami! Everyone has millions of opportunities in his or her life to fulfill Isaiah 40, chapter 1. If only we would do it. The challenge of studying this Haftarah is not only to read about the prophecies of the rebuilding of Jerusalem. It's to take the message of Isaiah wherever we're going. Wherever we were studying, wherever we're working, wherever whatever you're doing, researching, you're traveling, comfort my people. Comfort my people. May we live to see the consolation, the complete consolation of Jerusalem. Daberu alev Yerushalayim, when you talk to someone's heart. So of course the words will go in, because when you speak from your heart, it goes into the heart. May we follow the example of Joseph, of Vayinachem otam, Vayidaber al libam. He comforted them, and he spoke to their heart. And may each of us, in his or her own way, fulfill that which Isaiah says, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Yomar Elokecha. Thank you so much for listening.